Okay, I have just encountered my first storm on day 8 here, and I think I lost a couple of things. Thankfully, I was near home. Throw in some iron sheets, and the storm's over. Alright, now let's go check on our damage. I know my solar panels, they're going to be a little bit damaged. So I'm going to go ahead and deconstruct and see if that fixes it. It doesn't, so they might have changed it. Alright. So I've expanded a bit, quite a bit, since that dust storm. Did a bit of logic. I've got this logic writer switch. It comes from the logic IO and the batch writer as well. And I set this output to the batch writer. I want the force right, so I'm forcing it to write on that batch writer instead of this batch writer reading from something else. I have, if I turn it on, if I turn it on and I set this to on, it'll output a 1. If I set it to off, it'll output a 0. And then on the batch writer, I have it reading from the logic writer switch to the centrifuge, both of them, it being a batch, and open. So it will automatically open and close it'll automatically open and close this valve. It'll automatically open and close this lever. Now, as you can see, I've got quite a bit in here. Lots of iron, plenty of hydrocarbons, quite a bit of copper, and same thing in the other one. I've added a bit of glass to this system so I can show you what's going on. Here's the dirty ore, and as it gets full, if this line gets full, it will overflow into this line. So what I need to do first, I've set this up with a chute junction, and what I need to do is output all of this because I messed up. Let's close that down. So now it'll output all of that in batches of 50. And there we go. Let's output the other one. Make sure it's completely emptied out. So what you can do is, if you get this reagent, throw it into your centrifuge and it will recycle it back into its original contents. Let me look at it again. So we had a bit of everything, and we have decimal in grams. Now what that did is it mixed that 6.3 silver. It got the other half of that in that other decimal point in the other reagent mix. So you're going to have to make sure to put it in the same centrifuge so it comes out as wholes and you don't have decimals. The game will not allow you to output in decimals. So now what this will do is it'll take one from this row and one from this row and back and sit there and shuttle back and forth on this junction. Also, I'm going to show you what happens if we put in something into both of our slots here, into both of our hands, and we split one and get thrown back. See how that arrow turned? So if we keep doing one at a time, eventually that arrow is going to turn and say, oh, it went that way. So it's a good visual to use if you want to know how many does it take to... it's a good visual to use if you want to know how many do I need, is this overflowing or not. You can use that. So we'll just throw in the 3 so it goes that way, and then as soon as this stops overflowing, it'll change and say it'll go, hey, go that way. So I sealed all this up. I left this one open originally, so that way I can go in and put up all these walls. When I did that, and then I eventually sealed everything. Ooh, that was close. And then I sealed everything. I sealed up this window, and what I'll do is I'll come inside. As you can see, I've expanded my cooling system. So now with this passive vent and this active vent, and I just let it run. When I'm inside, I have it on blue, and it'll sit here and fill up. And it pressurized. I remember the old passive vent with the pressure regulator here. I've removed that, but I had this, and I just continuously added pressure. I've continuously added pressure to the room, and what I do is it get about 60, maybe 70, 80, and I just remove a wall. And remove that wall, and then I would wait. Let it fill up into this next space. Get the pressure back up to 70, or whatever you prefer, and then you can move on to the next one. And then you do that again. Until I'm completely open. And you see, hey, I've got, you know, when I hit the windows, I know stop taking down walls. So that's how you pressurize a room slowly over time if you don't have the atmosphere to do that. You just keep grabbing in more and more and slowly expand one layer at a time. I did the same thing over here, expanding this. You want to be careful because there will be a sudden inflow of atmosphere. So like my solar panels, they did get damaged. What you can do is just set some walls. Set some walls along this line. So that way it increases very gradually. And you don't have sudden gusts of wind coming through. Now I've also, as you can see, I've expanded my solar network. Now I've kind of got myself in a little bit of a bind. For one, these solar panels are blocking those solar panels. Also, I've got to double up and I got to run heavy cable. And then in here, you see I've got a line of heavy cable and small cables. I'm not using the data network efficiently. So I'm thinking of changing that. But I did program it. So I've got an IC housing made in the electric printer and an IC10 chip. And I've just got a little bit of code. And so you define the solar. Now it can be either one of these. So here is the solar code. It's literally alias sensor D0, define the solar. That would be the and you define that in here. And I find the item and I want the solar panel dual. There's the prefab hash. So then you can literally copy that and then go back here and Control V it in. So you do need to you don't need this line if you've got it here. But what I can do here is I can write solar, so it helps you later on in the code. You can just use names for everything, but I'm using the actual number. I want to load from the daylight sensor the vertical. I want to load from the sensor the horizontal. This is 2-axis tracking. So let's say we were just doing single axis like we were on the moon. then I would just use these lines here. Load it and send it. Remember the logic writer, or batch writer? That's all you need. That's basically what these are doing. Oop. Now for 2-axis, what I'm doing is I'm subtracting 90. Remember, that always depends on which way your solar sensor is facing. So I have now mine on the roof and it's facing to the north. So I'm going to subtract 90 from R0 and store it back on R0 and then output it R0. And that'll give me the vertical. Horizontal is still the same. Just load the horizontal, store the horizontal. Remember, you always need a yield in there. I can go into it later if someone asks in the comments below about that. And then you confirm, and then you export, and your solar panels will face the correct direction. Now,
power low.
This one here, I don't have set up yet. So I have a large wind turbine and a small wind turbine. Now, let's find the cable. The upright wind turbine is producing nothing. And it looks like the wind turbine. So there's the upright wind turbine and the small wind turbine. You see I'm getting 140 watts, 79. It's kind of bouncing around. It's not a lot, but when there's a storm, it will generate quite a bit of power. And it'll supplement your lack of solar power. I have a table and a chair so I can sit down and eat. I have moved my food production over to here. And you see I have a basic packing machine. I have moved my ice production here. That's storing nitrogen in it. That's coming out of the ice machine. So I should put a vent on there. I have expanded my corn production. I literally planted 2 corn and then I just replanted them when they got fully grown to here. And I'm storing the seeds separately. Don't replant your seeds. If your crop dies, I've got my seeds left over. So I've also got my tomatoes. I planted 1 tomato and I got 3 out of it. Those take a while to grow, but they constantly grow. You don't have to replant them. I'm storing a bit of water here. So I am storing a bit of water here. I have quite a bit of H2O in the tank. I've got quite a bit of water in there. See, this is still the original This is still the original tank. I have not filled it. I had 4 plants in here, and I've still got a lot of water in there. The water doesn't take. It doesn't take the plants to grow enough to get you food. It's not going to use a lot. My food, I'm on day 56. You see I still have a can of tomato soup and a can of tomato soup. I've gone through the corn though. I've got an extra tablet. However, I should have built the other one. I do encourage a second mining belt. I've got one for my ores and I've got one for my gases. I've enclosed this. You see the portable oxygen tank. It can take damage from the storm. Remember that passive vent outside? So I've just got some oxygen filters in here. And let's swap those around. I was up to 1 mole of pollutants. So what I've done is I've installed a filter for the pollutants to be drawn out of the room and sent outside. This way. Also, this room has its own battery backup. The main floor, I still have this battery here. Still my cooling process, I just leave it open all day long. Let's make sure we get the power into the right direction. And what I can do is I can just turn this guy on, and as you can see, it'll automatically start charging those batteries. And there, that one's full. Now that one's gonna be full. You can see it'll even charge. And then put that into those 3, and you can expand on that later. But those are the basic tools that you're constantly using and running out of power, especially your tablet, and it'll keep it charged. There we go. And we're generating 2.4 kilowatts from the wind generator. I'll probably add another one, 1.9. It's kind of back and forth. If I had everything running, it's not going to support it, but it does help me out when the wind, or when the sun is gone. Here, I used an active vent. I vacuumed out this room, closed this door, vacuum everything out, release 2 oxide for every volatile, probably 10. So now we have our weather station and our 3 plastic sheets, and that's all she needs. I've also brought myself a light. It's a flashing light, so we'll see that once it's turned on. And this might give you an idea of what's going on here. Make sure to subscribe for the next episode.